Jewells68 here for Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, April 25th. It is the last Tuesday in April. I'm feeling pretty good about things, considering, all things considered. I'm still behind on schedule for the year, but because I didn't set too very many goals, I'm not too worried about that. I had a good weekend. I did finish hand stitching the binding on the wine quilt, whose name I've officially given it a name now, because, you know, the wine quilt isn't going to necessarily look that good on a label on the back of the quilt. So I have renamed the wine quilt A Very Good Year. That's the name of the quilt now, because it is a quilt for my sister, a milestone birthday quilt, because that's sort of the direction I decided to go for family quilts. Births, marriages, milestone birthdays. So my brother got a quilt last year for his 50th birthday. Phoebe got one for high school graduation, but of course she didn't get it until she went away to college, but, you know, a year later. Ken got one for his 50th birthday, and this one is for my sister's 60th birthday. So, yeah. And then my other brother's 60th is next year, and then all the siblings will be done, and I can start looking at nieces and nephews and great nieces and great nephews. One of which is going to be born in September. So that's the other quilt that I have on out there, unstarted object quilt that's out there for this year. So I do not have the finished quilt to show you because it is not labeled, it is not washed or anything. And hopefully this wind, we're having some really crazy winds, so hopefully that will die down by the time the quilt is washed and ready to take outside and film a little video. So I am hoping to get it in the mail maybe next week. I don't know, we'll see. I remembered at the last minute that I had intended, since I had so much wine fabric, I'd intended to try to do a coordinating pillowcase, because I do like to do that with these quilts. Wrap it in a pillowcase, as sort of like the gift wrap, eco-friendly gift wrap. And unfortunately, I didn't have a large enough piece of any of the fabric that was used in the actual quilt itself to use for the body of the pillowcase, the biggest part of the pillowcase. I usually use Jennifer's tutorial for the hot dog pillowcase method. And I'll try to remember to link that, but so I usually use a different fabric for the cuff or the bun of the pillowcase than I do for the body, and I didn't have a big enough piece for the main part of the pillowcase. So I was digging around, and I'm getting to the point where I don't have much in the way of yardage, which is good. That was the whole goal. Fuzz flying around in here. That was the whole goal for this year, right? Or for the last couple of years, has been to use up what I have and create a little space in this room so it's not so tight all the time. And so I don't have a lot of yardage. But then I remembered at the last minute when I was digging around thinking, I'm going to have to piece the pillowcase even more than normal, that I had all this fabric that I bought for the original Quilt-A-Long for Paper Piecing Vintage that I've decided probably not to finish to do that quilt for this year's Quilt-A-Long, which I know the Quilt-A-Long's almost over and I haven't even started it yet. I'm definitely going to make the quilt again, let's just put it that way, but it's probably not going to be with this fabric. So anyway, when I got that started originally, when we did the original Quilt-A-Long, I had ordered an entire kit of fabric from Craftsy because they had a bunch of sales at the end of the year, right around Christmas and New Year's. They were doing a fabric clearance, and I bought this fabric kit from Moda called Vin de Jour was the line from Moda, and I liked a lot of the fabrics. I just didn't like how they were working out in this quilt. They're all very kind of dark, and I don't know. I either needed to pick a different background fabric or something. I'm not really sure what the problem was, or the prints were just too big or busy. I'm not sure. But anyway, it also came with like a yard of this one coordinating fabric for border. It came with a pattern that I had no intention of doing. I just wanted the fabric. And I bought a fat quarter bundle, and I bought the kit. And I got them for half price. So it was a great deal for the amount of fabric that I got. And I still had a lot. So there was a decent size of this. So this is going to be the body of the pillowcase. And I believe it's sort of like a weave. It looks like basket weave or corks, you know. So, but it looks very, it's a nice neutral, and it'll go fine. I had just enough of this purple checkered fabric from the actual quilt top, because there wasn't much of this to go around. But I had just enough to put a pop of color to break up the cuff from the body of the pillowcase, because with them both being prints, it was a little busy. And I just didn't like how they looked right next to each other. But with this pop of color, it'll look great. And then I had just enough of the backing fabric, which is quilt labels. I had just enough of that left over that I had cut off after trimming, when I trimmed the the quilt. I pulled the batting off, so it's a little sticky from the adhesive. But I had just enough of that left to do the cuff with a tiny bit left over. And so I'm not going to do the flange because this is not wide enough to do the flange, but at least I don't think it is. But I can certainly just put a strip, basically sew it to the cuff first, and then when I sew the two parts together, I can put it together in there. So, yeah. So I think that'll make a nice pillowcase. And then last thing, this past weekend was our Project Linus annual Volunteer Appreciation Brunch. It is just a little place where a Great Harvest Breads donates, you know, little baked goods for the brunch. And they buy fruit. The chapter buys fruit and brings it. And the project coordinator team sets up, well, there's a place there's a church that donates their social room for us to have this every year, because the head of the county chapter that I'm part of, Bernalillo County, is a member of the church there, so she's got a good relationship there, and they donate the facility to us. So once a year we have this brunch. 128 or so. There's only room for 128 in the facility, so you have to RSVP and mean it if you're going to come, because we have way more volunteers than that. In the group itself, across the county, because it is a county-wide thing. I wasn't able to go last year, but I did RSVP to go this year, and I was glad I did, because I actually won a couple of door prizes. I won this wall hanging right here of these adorable kittens. Some of them are wearing mittens. But they're all little old-fashioned kind of reproduction-looking fabrics, but with kittens instead of little kids or flowers. So I thought that was very cute. So I won that in a door prize, and basically, like, the members of the board make these little wall hangings to give away as prizes. And I just happen to know the person who made this, which makes it even better. So because after she gave it to me, she goes, "Hey, I actually made this." So she's actually a member of the group that I belong to that's part of the Project Linus chapter for Bernalillo County. The Material Girls is the name of the group. Sandia Labs Material Girls. And I also won a gift card, which was just a MasterCard gift card for $25, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, so that was fun. The really great thing about this every year is they have representatives from several of the facilities that get our blankets, that receive our blankets and distribute them to children. And they come to speak about what happens to the blankets when they leave us, how they get used, how much they're appreciated by the children. and you usually need a lot of tissues. In fact, there's always there's a group of seniors at one of the senior centers that live at the retirement home that make little place setting gifts that kind of go on each one. And usually it's like a dish scrubby out of like the nylon stuff, or you know, something like that. Some little dish rag or whatever that was crocheted or knitted. This year they did a crocheted washcloth, and I think it must still be in my purse. I forgot to bring it in here. And then they kind of decorated it with a little ribbon, and then they put little sample sizes of like hand sanitizer and lotion and things like that inside. And so those were put at each plate. And I am going to put a suggestion in the suggestion box that from now on what it needs to be is not a washcloth and soap or whatever. It really needs to be one of those little, like Jennifer made that tutorial for the little trial, or not trial size, but the little travel tissue container. That's what it needs to be. It needs to be a packet of tissues in a little tissue container, because you need them when you're there. When you're talking about, you know, where the blankets go and how they're used, and you just cry because it just makes you feel good that, you know, this is what happens to them, and it makes you really be happy that you put the effort into it that you do. So I'm glad I went. I don't like to go every year because then it takes a place from someone else going, and there's so many of us. So I try to go maybe every other year, every 2 to 3 years. So I probably won't go next year so someone else can have my space. But it was really fun to go this year, and I'm glad I did, because it's always nice to get that reminder of what happens and what these blankets are really for. So that's really great. And that's all I have. So, as if I didn't yammer on for long enough to you with only a couple of things to show you. But that's it. Hopefully next week I can show you a finished quilt. I look forward to watching your videos, and I will see you next week. Bye!